Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Diego with another green card K1 visa video for you on your channel. I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't give you any legal advice. I don't work for USCIS. But pay attention, class, to this video is very important. Now remember, a marriage certificate is not enough evidence to prove a valid marriage to USCIS. So listen up, class, okay? These are the potential red flags that could create a problem for you for your 2-year or your 10-year green card approval. And you want to get it approved, right? Remember, a marriage certificate is just one document, and just about anyone can go to a courthouse and get a marriage certificate and get married. It's not difficult to do. So in order to qualify for a marriage-based green card in the United States and satisfy USCIS, your marriage has to be proven not to be a sham. And you not only have to prove you are legally married, but that your marriage is actually bona fide, meaning you are sharing or have made significant inroads in making a shared life together. On a 2-year green card, you got 90 days to do this, basically. So you must prove that you are actually living in the same house together. You both go to bed at night in the same bed, hopefully. So by spending real significant time together, for example at family gatherings, holidays, family celebrations, etc., get lots of evidence to prove this with photos. Now, you got to prove that you have combined your bank accounts and your debts together. Okay, try to include all these things, but if you cannot prove this, you will definitely have some explaining to do to an immigration officer at an immigration interview for your 2-year green card, or maybe even your 10-year green card. So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you collect all the documents, okay? Because all real marriages will create evidence. So you got to show this to USCIS that your marriage is the real thing, okay? Get copies of joint bank accounts, joint bank statements together for when you first entered the United States. That's when the timestamp should start. Right up to the bank statements, etc., the month before you apply for your green card. Okay? Show both your names on leases and mortgages and deeds to real estate. Children's birth certificates if you have children. And as a couple, okay, you must both prove a bona fide marriage to immigration. Because this is a benefit, not a right, and you have to be on your best evidence that you can possibly get. So what are the red flags that immigration officers are looking for, which will make extra work for you guys trying to prove that your marriage is real? Remember, this is a sweat equity process. You got to work hard to prove this. So let's take a look at personal characteristics of couples living together in a situation which will require USCIS to look deeper into your marriage green card application and or U.S. consulate green card interview. If you are applying for, let's say, an IR1 or CR1 spousal visa at the embassy or consulate. Okay, lots of questions are going to be raised by USCIS or the consulate under the following conditions. You don't share the same language. Now, Karina and I, Karina's from Venezuela, she speaks Spanish, I speak English, but I can communicate with her because I can speak Spanish and she's learning English. So if you cannot communicate with each other in a meaningful way, how can you build a shared life together? Okay, so at least you're going to want to show U.S. immigration authorities that you're taking steps to learn the other person's language or how you've learned to communicate. And it's perfectly okay to use a translator on your iPhone or your iPad as a temporary means to chat and talk and communicate. But make an effort, Mr. Beneficiary, Miss Beneficiary, to learn English during this process and show evidence of this in your green card application. Another red flag is a vast difference in age. Well, Karina and I are 20 years apart. But if you have both large age gaps, it's not a problem if you can prove a long-term real relationship. Okay? But when this gets combined with other red flags, there's a problem. And immigration will no doubt suspect a compromise by someone who's either interested in obtaining a green card or in being paid to help someone else get the green card. But you can overcome this by proving a long-term strong relationship and by proving commonalities of likes and dislikes, shared interests. As a couple, Karina and I both like the same things. And we lived together basically for 3 years. And I was on the rent receipts with our apartment in Bogota, Colombia. So we had a 3-year dating longevity. So the age gap was irrelevant to immigration because they could see we were in a real relationship. Okay, so don't be having a panicking if you're in a big age gap between each other. Just prove the relationship, okay, and then you'll be good to go. So it's not going to be a problem, but it is a red flag for immigration, okay. So just so long as you understand that this can be overcome by proving a long-term strong relationship and by proving commonalities of likes and dislikes and shared interests, things you like to do together as a couple. If you can prove it, you got no problems, okay? Very important. So try to relax. If there is a difference in religion, this sometimes can raise suspicions by immigration because religious beliefs, okay, are fundamental to many people's daily approach to life, to their behavior. Okay, the U.S. government always takes a strong look at applications from couples with different religions who've been married to each other. But you know, there's ways you can overcome that. You'd want to provide indications of why this isn't a big deal in your household. How can you do that? How can you prove it? Well, one half of the couple is not an observant member of their religion. Or both of you are learning about each other's possible converting to the other person's religion, or some other appropriate steps. But it's not going to be an issue, but it is a red flag, and you must show this in your application. Perhaps you could write a letter of explanation in your green card application when you file for the green card and say, oh, I've decided to convert to this religion, etc., etc. Now, different social classes or cultural backgrounds also raise red flags for USCIS, okay? Especially when the couples are of different wealth levels or, you know, places in society, I guess you'd say. And again, it's okay to get married, but USCIS will look into your background and want to have answers about why this occurred and whether this is true love or not. Is this a real relationship? Are you guys really in love with each other? Or is somebody in it for the money? Differences in race may be an issue, not because USCIS is racist. They are definitely not racist. Okay, but anytime a couple that don't share the same characteristics, it raises more questions and red flags in the eyes of U.S. immigration authorities. Okay, now you shouldn't have to explain why it's possible to fall in love with someone from another race. You shouldn't have to explain that. But you're going to want to emphasize the points of commonality or shared interest. You like to do the same things, all right? So once again, make sure you can prove this is not an issue. Family photos together showing family interactions and activities, etc. Doing things together you like to do, visiting museums. Photographs will usually satisfy USCIS officials who are reviewing your application. So try not to worry about that. Now, unequal educational backgrounds is another possible red flag. Okay, studies have shown that most women don't believe they can admire a man or respect a man less educated than they are. I don't know what the study came from, but that's what they say. And men put intelligence and education at ranking of number 5 out of 10 in their desirability qualities in a mate. So if one person in the relationship is highly educated and the other person is not, expect questions from USCIS. Okay, so you got to find ways to remind immigration that educational degrees are not the last word on intelligence, skills, or loving each other, right? Now my wife Karina, my beautiful wife, she has a degree in tax accounting. Okay, she's highly intelligent, but it's got nothing to do with how much we care about each other and love each other. Living at different addresses after marriage will definitely be a problem for immigration because married couples are supposed to be living together if you get married, okay? Especially when you come to the United States. If you don't do that, you're going to need an explanation For example, you could show that one of you is finishing a university degree and the other one can't leave a specific job because for income requirements. And be ready to show that you have a plan to live together as soon as possible. So back it up with a darn good reason, like I mentioned. Okay? It's a red flag. Another red flag is living in the same house together but with zero interaction together. For example, you work at one job, you work at another job, and so your schedules are totally different from each other, so you're never home at the same time. Or you don't share a bed together. USCIS is going to wonder whether that was intentional. So that's why immigration asks you so many questions about what's the color of the carpet in your living room? How many windows are in the bathroom? What's the color of the bed sheets on your bed, etc. Now, a secret marriage is definitely a red flag if you haven't told your friends and family about your union. USCIS is going to wonder whether it's because you don't want people to know and you don't want them to get all excited about a marriage that's never going to happen, or it's going to divorce right as soon as you get your green card. So you don't want anybody to know about it. So you definitely will need to explain this situation. Now, don't worry if a family member objects to your marriage, okay? Making you feel that your wedding or engagement is a secret is irrelevant. Don't allow that to happen. If somebody else objects to your marriage, that's their problem, not your problem. Okay? But you got to have a public wedding. And also telling absolutely nobody about your wedding is going to be a problem for USCIS. Okay? But if you are absolutely a private couple, then get affidavits, letter of affidavits from your friends who you have told, recounting your swearing them to secrecy and reaffirming the position of your family if they have personal knowledge. So get letters of affidavit saying, yeah, this marriage was real, but it was private. And it's all too convenient, the timing of the marriage after deportation proceedings begin. That's a huge red flag, especially within the illegal immigrant community, which is currently being corrected by the administration with deportations every day. But if you are married to a U.S. citizen, illegal immigrants can no longer evade the normal removal proceedings to apply for a green card based on marriage as a defense to deportation. So if you marry an American just to stay here as an illegal, you're still going to get deported. Okay? You're going to have to explain why you didn't choose to marry until it became a matter of urgency. ICE wants to deport me. Is it too late to marry a U.S. citizen? Yeah, it is. It's too late. You're going to get deported. Attempts to manufacture evidence of a shared life together right before USCIS interviews is a massive red flag. So don't do that. Okay? Remember, you're going to be asked to provide evidence of joint bank accounts, joint assets together, like you could buy CDs together, buy real estate together, memberships together, with dates starting from when you first entered the United States. Okay? Those items will have to show dates when they were started, especially bank statements. And if many of these dates are just a few weeks before the green card or visa interview, it's going to create a problem with immigration. They're going to think that you were trying to make your case look good rather than taking the normal, natural steps to join your lives together. So plan ahead. Right? Getting married right after you meet is another red flag, because most people take months or years to consider even getting married. So if you got married after just one meeting and a couple of weeks together, USCIS is going to wonder why. Why'd you do that? So get ready to explain this situation and be prepared for a denial if you're in that position. Okay? Marriage soon after one's person's divorce again is a problem, a red flag. Okay? You get married the day after you got divorced. Seriously. A marriage by someone who was presumably not free to date until recently could indicate that the courtship was suspicious, right? Why was it so short? You're definitely going to have to prove that you were both in a long affair with each other to evidence to back it up. For example, it could take a year just to get a court date for your divorce hearing. And in that year, you were dating somebody and decided you want to get married. That would be a perfectly legitimate excuse. If the U.S. petitioner, the U.S. sponsor, has a history of sponsoring other spousal immigrants, that's a red flag, okay? If the U.S. citizen or permanent resident has been married and petitioned for more than one or other immigrants in the past, and those marriages ended in divorce, did that mean a real marriage fell apart? Or were their earlier marriages nothing more than green card scams? Okay? But if you were married to a foreign national and it didn't work out and you can prove it, there you go. Try to relax, ladies and gentlemen, during this process, okay? Your relationship is real, you're going to be fine. Okay? So if the petitioner didn't get caught the first time around and they're trying to do this again to help another green card person get their green card, a person get their green card, definitely expect heavy questioning in this situation. So prove your relationship is real with the new person, and the last divorce you went through, if she was a foreign national, was just non-compatibility together. It didn't work out. Okay, you got to prove this. Write a letter of explanation if you must. Non-citizen comes from a country with a history of immigration fraud. That's another red flag. And USCIS and the US State Department keep a track of which countries citizens commit visa or immigration fraud at the highest rates. They got data on this. They collect the data. So it's not your fault, right, that you met somebody you want to marry from a country that has a high fraud rate. But these people from these countries will face extra investigations on their background, which could slow down your visa and or green card process a little bit. And another red flag is, why don't you have any children if your new wife is of childbearing age? Or if the man is so much younger, he will be asked at the interview, why don't you want children if your wife is much older than you? This could happen at the green card interview. They'll ask you the question, but it's not going to be a block if you can overcome this question. Having a child together is not a requirement of the marriage green card, okay? However, doing so is viewed as strong evidence that the marriage is real, unless of course a different father is listed on the birth certificate. Thus, having no children will be looked at in a questionable application. So if you've got a ton of other red flags, this is just going to be another red flag to the list. But it's not going to stop you from getting the green card if you have a good reason. For example, infertility could be an issue. Providing the medical documents in your green card application as proof of any treatment you've sought will definitely help you overcome that issue. Now, another red flag is an impoverished U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident who is petitioned trying to get a green card. If you're a U.S. citizen, trying to get a K-1 visa approved. If the U.S. member lacks a job or is in apparent desperate need of money, USCIS authorities might wonder whether that person is looking to make a quick buck through a fraudulent marriage. Somebody could be paying the American citizen sponsor for the marriage because he doesn't have any money, okay? And USCIS will look at a past history of crimes, fraud, lies by either spouse, or so anyone who has committed past acts which were illegal in the past, particularly in quest for money, might be looked at as more likely or willing to enter into marriage fraud. So their immigration is definitely going to be doing biometrics and checking your fingerprints, okay, to look for past history of criminal activity. So dealing with the red flags in your green card application can be achieved so long as your relationship is real and you qualify for the benefit. Now, red flags might be present in a perfectly real marriage too, on the other end of the spectrum. So couples whose cases with no red flags could also be given a hard time by USCIS decision makers. But hang in there. The stakes are high, right? Your life is being held in your hand by an immigration officer. Not only could your case be denied on marriage fraud grounds, but you could face legal penalties and fines and jail time. USCIS has a tough job, ladies and gentlemen. They have to make difficult decisions in a very short period of time. So the more evidence you as an applicant can provide immigration to help them overcome any doubt that they may have with overwhelming evidence of your relationship in the application, the better the chances that your case will be approved. Evidence, evidence, evidence. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you at the next live stream with my beautiful wife Karina. And if you join as a member, join up as a member right there on the channel. And if you join as a member, you can get to call me, text me, email me. You want to call me on my cell phone anytime you want.
Hello.
Like I said, I don't give you any legal advice. I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't work for USCIS, but I do have 12 years experience processing green cards and K1 visas. 12 years, over 12 years. I've helped hundreds of people get their green cards and their K1 visas. My beautiful wife Karina is from Venezuela, and I had to overcome those issues with her being from Venezuela with immigration, with all kinds of background checks, Interpol police certificates, etc., etc. But you love somebody, you're in a real relationship, you overcome all of the issues and the problems, and you get married and you start your lives together. If you need my help doing this, I will gladly help you. And that's why I put this channel together. Not for me, I know how to do this. I did it for you. And it was Karina's idea while we were living in Colombia together. We were in Villa de Leyva on a vacation. She said, why don't you put a green card K1 visa channel together? And here it is. See you at the next live stream, and thanks for watching.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.